Hello, we are delighted to welcome Professor Deepan Sivaraman from Ambedkar University, New Delhi. He is the Professor of Performance Studies at Ambedkar University and one of the leading scenographers and theatre persons in India and well known all over the world. He is the curator of the Itfok here. He was the artistic director here earlier, and he has, over the ages, he has produced so many scintillating works of theatre and performance in Kerala and outside Kerala. So we will talk about his life and efforts and creations in theatre today. Professor Deepan, would you like to talk about your childhood and early introduction to theatre, your keen kind of engagement with the life of theatre and performance, and your education within India and outside in London and Great Britain in particular?
I was born in a small village called Vasupura, which is about 25 kilometers away from Trichur town. This village is surrounded by small hills and a lot of paddy and mango trees, banana plantation. I had a very rich childhood. I spent most of my time in my childhood is in field, fishing, climbing mango trees.
Oh, right. So it was the coal wetlands.
It's a wetland.
Okay.
And I had a big family. I had 6 siblings.
Oh,
And I was the last one in the row.
right.
So I had 7 children, 5 elderly sisters, 1 brother and myself the last. 7 people. And my mom and my father.
Right.
My father was a carpenter.
Right.
He also used to do vastu. He was also kind of a traditional architect who could build some amazing traditional houses and temples and all of that.
The Kamala culture of Kerala.
Yeah. So I grew up with his, his craft and his mathematics of finding solutions, very complex solutions in the woodwork.
Right.
And I also learned carpentry from him when I was about 15 years old.
Right.
And I started work as a carpenter soon after. And I did that for about 7 to 8 years.
Okay.
It was my career.
Right.
While I was doing my theatre studies, my masters and my MPhil and all, I was actually part-time, I was working as a carpenter.
Right.
And it was not as a kind of a hobby career, but it was my main career. I was a good carpenter.
Okay. During your school days, you were doing the work.
I mean, from higher secondary onwards.
Okay.
I did carpentry as for my career, so I could earn money and I could support my education. Because my father was not earning much, so as my family, and I had 7 of us together, so I had to do, I had to work.
Right.
And I enjoyed what I was doing, so as my brother was doing the same job as well. Later he also got educated, he has moved on and he has put another career later. But this is what we were all doing, and we used to have a workshop as well. So I accompanied my father and we built many houses together. And I also, after a point of time, I and my cousin brother, we together started to take over.
Right.
So I had a very long career, actually 8 years is a long time.
Okay.
Many people don't know that I had a carpentry career
Right.
in my early profession before I become whatever I have now. My theatre career began from my childhood, of course. I wouldn't say career, it was a passion. At that time, we were, in every, summer vacation, we gather, family, family mango groves, and my father also had a big family. He also had six siblings.
Oh, right.
5 brothers and 2 sisters.
Right.
And all of them used to live in a group family situation in a huge house, traditional house in a mango grove surrounded by paddy field.
Okay.
Like in any old houses in that period of time.
Okay. That place is called?
Vasupuram.
Okay.
It was in 1970s.
Oh, right.
Right. From 1980s, I finished my matriculation in 1987. And as I said, that we used to gather in every summer vacation, mango groves, sort of arecanut trees and coconut trees, and we used to build small theatre out of coconut leaves.
Okay.
Small shed, and we used to enact things.
Okay.
And that was my initial days of. It's more of like a cucumber theatre.
Okay.
You know. Half cucumber theatre is like after you harvesting the cucumber, you perform, making something there. It was a similar sort of time. I remember it was a harvest time often. Vishu, that kind of time. So people actually harvesting the rice is, taking out of the field, and we are kind of performing, and children always gather. It's a time. This was a good time. Our siblings and many of my cousin sisters and cousin brothers used to travel to my family. It was not my immediate family. Which mean my family mean my house was away from that place, but it was my father's family, my granddad's house. Where was we actually initially started to have a dramatic understanding. It was not an understanding; it was more of a fun.
Right.
I used to see a lot of club dramas and invited professional theatre and all of that in our village, and we just enact some of the stuff. My a serious intervention to theatre, I think, began when I went to study School of Drama. But when I said that was in 1993. But of course, there was lots of theatre projects we did before that. I mean, there was a bit of gap from my childhood to my teenage years, and that teenage years from 18 to 23-year-old, they're about 5 years. We have had a cultural society called Gramina. It's called Gramina Samskarika Sanghadana. It's village cultural society.
Okay.
And there we had a small library. We had a small organization. We used to celebrate annually, and we used to take one drama, and I was one of the initiative person in that group.
So you began scenography writing at that level?
Not really. Not really. I was just enjoyed that being on stage, and we used to bring some village directors to direct plays. And it was an all kind of a small.
So you were a performer.
I was a performer, of course. I was a performer. I used to be a performer. I liked acting, and I was on the stage. I used to sing, and I could draw. I was interested in all of that, and I was very bad at studying in the classes, and I was not very good at all, and I was so in a way frustrated that I could not really do well in my education. But maybe I was very good at this, but there was no avenue that I could actually kind of maybe slightly change my path, and nobody there to tell me. And I was having a very crowded family, and my father and my mother and all were all very busy to take care of my sisters and us, and to raise a family, and they did not have much time to guide me. I mean, one great thing what they did was they did not ask me to do anything particular. They did not force me to go somewhere else. Always they allowed me to do what I liked to be doing, and my father especially, he never actually insisted me to do anything unwanted, which he always allowed me to do. So so when I went to School of Drama, I had a completely different perception about theatre. Before that, I actually wanted to study painting, visual art, and I did an attempt. I did not know the School of Drama existed at that time. So I knew that Fine Arts College existed, and I used to, as I said, I used to draw and paint, and I also did a 2 years of a painting course in Trichur. It's a place called Kalabhavan in Padjarakotta. And at that time, I had many friends like Ando KG, Dinesh PG, at least these two friends I remember. And we all went to study there, and I thought that I could paint and I could be a visual artist because I could not do anything better in other disciplines of in my education. So and I went to do a entrance examination to Anton College, Fine Arts. I remember it was my first trip out of Kodagara, from my small town. And I went there, spent 3-4 days, and but I could not crack the exam. I did not get the seat to study visual painting there. So I was completely frustrated and disheartened. I returned to Trichur, and all my other friends like Dinesh PG, KG, and all joined the Fine Arts College here in Trichur Fine Arts College. That time it was used to be a Fine Arts Institute or a college. And then I did a try to School of Drama, and I managed to get a seat there. Then I stayed all 3 years there, and it was completely transformed me. I would say, that was a great time. It was a great institution. So much of energy, so much of enthusiasm and passion. It was a time when G. Shankarapilla just left, and he moved to Mahatma Gandhi University and started the School of Letters. He passed away, I think, at the time when I was joined. But Vaila Billa sir was there. He was the head of the school. Ramendra Mugheri, A.K. Nandiyar, Meripati Raju, all these people were there at that time, our faculty. We had a good time. A lot of great artists used to come and teach us. S. Ramanujan is one of the most important faculty who used to come from Tamil Nadu, Tanjavur, and used to teach us direction. Maya Thunberg from Finland used to visit us, and she directed plays. K.G. Krishnamurthy, Abhilash Pillai, he was very young at that time. He was just graduate from NST. I think he was only 26-year-old or something.
I see.
They invited him to direct a play, and he directed a play. Sija Thomas Samanishini. I don't remember all his names. Meripati Raju also did a play called Rudhrangam, based on Veni Samharam, Pattanarayana's Veni Samharam at that time. It was a great production. So we had a very good time, and also I had a very talented batchmates with me. Jyoti Shanji was my batchmate, director. The Manjulan KB, who is from Payanur, Kasaragod. He directed production of Kelu. He was my batchmate too. Then there was this Anil Nidmangadu, who is an actor who recently passed away. He was my batchmate as an actor. There's a Roshan NG, who is a very well-known makeup man in cinema. He was also my batchmate in my same batch. So that was a great time. And we had also spent time with a lot of our seniors and all of that. We learned a lot from seniors. And I did my first production there. And my production was Ashad Ke Ek Din, One Day in Ashad by Mohan Ragesh. It was a realistic play. And I did a realistic kind of scenography.
In which year it was?
I think it was 1996 or something. My first play. My first play, meaning I did a production just before that. I did outside of that production, I did a play called Oru Vichitramaya Katha, a strange story. And that time, that was a play, it was a college competition drama, half-an-hour play. As a play, first I wrote and directed. And play was quite a big hit. At that many places, wherever they did, they put a first prize in song and best acting, all of that. But I also had a lot of interesting intervention with the college theatre at that period of time. Especially we worked with the Kerala College and Maharaja's College. Mostly these two colleges. And I also had an opportunity to, at that time, a lot of youngsters who actually later in their career has become very important theatre and film personalities. In Kerala, one of our college campus mate that time was this Sunil. Later he's called as Naren as an actor. Who he was one of the lead actor in my play. In the second play we called Sue's Story.
I see.
He acted as Jerry. He got the best actor in the song. Then he went to Araya in Chennai to study cinematography. But later he became an actor. Interestingly, I mean, now that he used to, his passion was acting, and he was one of the actors in my production that time. And also in Maharaja's College, I had this young man called Ashik Kapoor and Anwar Rashid came to meet me in Karnataka. And they were doing their masters or a masters first in Malayalam MA. They invited me, they asked me, will you come and direct a play for us? And I remember we sat together in Ladur and I said I agreed. And after this, this production went to win an award in Vijitramaya Kada. And I was myself only 24-year-old.
Right.
And I went to Maharaja's College and directed a play for them. And Anwar Rashid acted as the lead, the tiger character.
I see.
And Ashik did the second lead.
What was the title of the play?
Uru Vijitramaya Kada. Strange story. It's a great Chinese folk tale.
Oh, I see.
And Deepan Chandran. He's an important film writer. And he was also their batchmate. So these three people were the team. They acted in all my plays, three of them. They all three of them took a lead. So I worked with them 3 years. I did twice. I did a Strange Story, and third time I did Macbeth, who is that bloodied man. No, Macbeth, and my title of my play was the Macbeth, who is that bloodied man, someone else's play. But Macbeth, the Rise and Fall of the King Macbeth was the name of my play.
I see.
And Anwar acted as a Macbeth. And Bipin acted as the Bango, and Ashik Kapoor acted as the Duncan, the king, the three of them. And then of course later they moved on to cinema and all of that. So I had this sort of interesting mix of people. I have said this, but a lot of people have actually worked with me in earlier their time. I have actually kind of still remain in the field of art. I'm happy to see them that way. That was my time of the initial years of my, School of Drama. Then I did this Ashad Cake. Then I did a production called Macbeth. And my last production project was Willing Golding's Lord of Flies.
In between, you did that zoo story also.
Yeah, that was the small projects we did. So story was a collaborative project with me, Jyotish, and somebody called Biju. That was the kind of way we could actually earn some money. So college campus theatre was also kind of an extra money. That's the way we could actually get some fee, because that's what our learning, our career learning, right? And Lord of the Flies was my last project. By that time, I think I was slowly developing a vocabulary. Lord of the Flies was quite similar to, similar to maybe the Legends of Kazakh. It's an open air field, and fire, and people sitting on the tree side. Back there is a shadow puppetry. The Lord of the Flies, right? It's a great novel. And I directed that again once I graduated for Theatre. Theatre was a company, a group from Trichur. And I think that was one of the companies at that period of time, very important because of they was interested in contemporary theatre form. And Surjit, now he is also a film actor. Surjit was the group leader. And James Elia, Jospi Raphael, Gopalan K, C.R. Rajan, myself, Jose Koshi was very important name to be mentioned all this while through, because I know Koshi, and we are friends from 1993 onwards, so 30 years something. We just grew up together with theatre, and all these names I mentioned, Govalan K. Rajan, Jospi Rafael, James Elias, Surjit, in way we part ways and we went to different places, but we all kind of premised in this theatre and cinema and all of that. So I directed this play with them, and we also did another project, Beyond the Land of Katamale. Surjit directed that play, and I directed a lot of the plays as a second production. And I was with them for 3 to 4 years. We stayed in different places. And it was also time of, we were struggling, but we were also very young, 26, 27-year-old, and so much of passion and enthusiasm to change the world and make work. So we almost 7 to 8 of us used to live together. And that time it was easy to get a Mahila Samajams. You know Mahila Samajams.
Yes,
yes. Place this. Mostly the kindergarten take place there.
Right.
Small, always some small government state building run by Panchayat.
Right.
So we used to go and stay there and live there for 10 days of camp. And we even camped 2 years, 2 to 3 years in one place, where we can grow tapioca and all of that in the backyard. We built small shed where we rehearsed. When we performed a lot of the flies, in fact, we did from Mulangunutagavu, behind the medical college hospital, surrounded by cashew plantation, where we built a small shed in a 1-bedroom house, and where all 10 of us used to stay, and where we produced that play there, in that almost like a jungle premise. It was 1997, I got not wrong, just after my graduation. And we performed that at different places. I remember we traveled to Trivandrum in 1998 for a first Surya festival at that time, I suppose. We performed in Jamhar Balabhavan. But we could not really stay together too long because, there was a lot of pressure from all and what you guys are doing. And I was also the last man in my family. I was also having this pressure to go back. I do a bit of carpentry and come back. And I was among us, I was the one who was earning because I could earn. So I could actually do carpentry and then I used to come back to the camp to buy maybe 2 kilograms of chicken and a bottle of whiskey. And we stay there weekend again, we rehearse, and I go back. And it was a good time, but we were really struggling, we could not even pay. Of course there was no rent. We always just get free from somebody. But when we don't have money to pay for the groceries we buy from the shops, and we don't really go to that road, we change the road. After a point of time, we realized this is not going to happen like this for a long time. Then I decided to do an MA. And I went to Pondicherry University to do an MA. And at that time, I was actually, I was doing really full-time, fully focused on carpentry for just 2 years, nothing else. So I was kind of, thinking whether I should actually fully focus on take over my father's profession and do it. And I had an accident one day. I wounded my leg with a chisel.
During the carpentry work?
After the work I finished, I was going home and I was having this bag. And one chisel was popped out and cut my leg very badly. And I came home and I had to stay back for about 10 days. I could not do anything. It's a very deep wound, a stitch. I have still a mark there. And I was just sitting at home and I was thinking, I have graduated from School of Drama long time back, and I could not really do much. Not too long back, maybe 2 years I full-time carpentry I did. And I was just looking at the album of Macbeth, of Premier Production, and the production I was working with these young actors from Maharaja's College, and my first production, a lot of the flies, a lot of that. And I was feeling very bad, and I shouldn't be the only full-time carpenter. I should actually go back and maybe do more theatre. Then I told my family that I'm going for a small trip, and I was still having a stitch. And my cousin brother, his name is Vinod, and he was the lead carpenter who's taking the contract of the houses, and I was the second in person. We worked together, and there was we had a house to finish. And that time in Pondicherry, my friend Jyothishanji was studying, and few others.
Okay.
And I thought that
you were in the same batch.
we were in the same batch, and he was doing his masters there. And I just thought, I'm not going to come and see you guys, just for a 1-2 days trip. And one day I went there, and I said I'll come back in 2 days to my cousin brother, and my stitch will take off, then I can resume the work. When I went to Pondicherry to see that place, when I went there, I could like that place. Like that place means by the seaside. A lot of palm trees, a lot of palm toddy, fresh fish, fresh prawn,
seafood,
seafood, and really sweet toddy, very cheap. Everything looks so beautiful and pleasant. A lot of possibilities everybody felt, and also the university is just in front of the seaside. And my school is a school of performing art, it's called SOPA. That's the by the gate. And I found very interesting thing, amusing thing in Indian universities. Most of the drama schools are by the gate. Mostly run from some cement godown. All the other departments will be run with a huge building. The conference halls and all.
Concrete
so this is something like by the gate, some sort of cement godown. And the SOPA was also running from the cement godown. So we get a chance to study when the cement is taken out of the godown. So cement has been given the more priority than the in our pedagogy. Gunashekaran was the head of the department. He was a great folk singer. And then R. Raju, who was a designer, come director, also graduate from NST. And Armugam, who was actually graduate from School of Drama Trichur. There's 3 people were faculty there. And I wouldn't say that was not a great, pedagogical time I had there, but I had a great time being there. And I rented a house. I could hardly say it was a house. It was a hut from a fisherman. I had no money to stay with the hostel to pay. So I decided to stay with this fisherman. And I stayed there about 2 years.
I see.
Fisherman.
Throughout your MA?
I stayed there. So that was a good time. I could actually, it was just seaside, and I could just walk in my home, and they were great people. So I could actually have, as I said, I really like fish, and I like cooking as well. So I had really fresh fish every day. We get fresh toddy, and I come and rehearse and do, and I go back. I don't really indulge much in the university interior. I have only few times I went inside of the university. I was mostly outside. I was staying with this fisherman of people, and I lived there. Then I finished my graduation there, and I returned to Kerala in 2000. As soon as I came back, of course, I returned to carpentry. There was nothing else I could do with my MA. But I knew that there is something that I should be careful about in my career. Since I have spent 2 years outside of Kerala, I also felt that I could maybe pursue something else. So I went to do an MPhil at the MG University. I think that's the moment of time we both met.
There you did that zoo story, I think, in that MG campus also.
I did that same play. I did acted in this story as well. So I have my MPhil time was it was a great time. I always felt that wherever I spent my education was always very pleasant. So much of happenings there. Very At that time, remember, we had people like V.C. Harris,
Right.
P. Balachandran,
Yeah.
D. Vinaychandran,
Yes.
P. Ramachandran,
Yeah.
Umar Taramel.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Professor Narendra Prasad was
Narendra
also
Prasad was also there.
briefly. Unfortunately, he passed away.
That's right. So he was also there. So it was a great team, and I was there, and they also took me into the team,
Right.
not as a student.
Right.
They took me among them, and so I had immediately felt this great privilege of companionship with these sort of great minds, and we did a lot of productions there. Balatan was we were very brotherly, So I spent there 2 years in the hostel, and also some of our batchmates at time, they were not my immediate batchmates, they were junior to me, like K.P. Jagmar, Rashid, Sanish, E.V. Sanish Ilayaduthu. Similarly, who else was there? Ashok, he's also a journalist. Varghese, Anu Papachan, who was a very junior young student who was joined that time. And even her husband, Anjuraj, was also a student. I think we were all the same batch. They were very young kids at that time.
Right.
While I was doing an MPhil there, but I knew them. They were there. They are there, and we did a few very interesting work. We did a version of Othello. P. Balendran directed. It was actually Iago. The name was Iago. Iago was the central lead. It was the perspective of Iago. Iago was an African man and bullied by the rest of the team.
Okay.
And I was Iago, and Harris was Othello. And we did another production. Of course, we did a zoo story with Ajit.
Okay.
As Peter and I was a Jerry. Ajit became a huge scientist. Almost went on to win a Nobel Prize with his team. Now he's a professor in return here in Bangalore. P. Balendran and we did a Setswan Lemandastri, Woman of Setswan. And again I did the young son, the lead actor, lead character. And Balendran also was acting in the play. We were acting together.
Okay.
And 2 years went just like that. And we had a lot of cooking sessions. We go to either Umar's house or Harris' house, and we cook, we drink, we sing. A lot of trip. Or we go to D. Vinendran Sar's house. So we had a really, really good time. But the time got over. I did my dissertation was a transmutation process of how a novel to drama. How do this adaptation techniques? What happens in the process of adaptation? And I took Siddhartha, Hermann Hesse Siddhartha as my case study, and I transformed that into play version. That was my thesis. And that thesis work was also used by Jyotish MG later, and he directed a play on Siddhartha. This particular play I wrote. That play also,
the Abhinaya group.
And that was my play. And that play.
So you wrote the original scenography.
Play. I have the not scenography. Scenography is a part of design. Of course, I was a scenographer of that play, but I wrote the play. I was a writer of the play. It was my thesis work. And that play was quite an important play at that time. We went on to different places, including Avignon Festival. We performed there. And I was the scenographer. I designed the entire work, from costume to props to everything else. That was one of the earlier work, conceptless scenographer. Scenographer is different from set designer. A scenographer is somebody who takes care of the entire visual length. Not just one thing, but you design every visual aspect of the play. So since I wrote the play and I designed the entire visual aspect of that play, and Jyotish directed it, so we had a kind of very good collaboration.